Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regularly called meeting of the City Council for Tuesday, September the 3rd. Ms. Hilbert, will you please call roll?
Yes, sir. Councilman De La Garza?
I am present.
Councilman Kidder?
Here.
Councilwoman Butler?
Present.
Councilwoman Scott?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Young?
Here.
Councilman Lofgren?
Here.
And Mayor Crocker.
Here. If you would, please rise and join me for the pledges and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Again, welcome everyone. We will jump right into it. Mr. Garza, announcements and reminders this evening?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We do have several announcements for you this evening, so please bear with me. On behalf of Municipal Court, we'd like to invite the residents to celebrate the court's 125th anniversary by having breakfast with court staff and learning more about court services during Java with the Judge, which will take place tomorrow morning, September 4th, from 7:30 to 9 a.m., just right outside this building here at the City Hall courtyard. Complimentary coffee, tacos, and cupcakes will be provided to celebrate the court's birthday. Hope to see you there for those tacos. Also, on behalf of Municipal Court will be hosting a car seat inspection event from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Friday, September 13th in the Target parking lot to kick off Child Passenger Safety Week. Caregivers can learn about best practices for child safety seats and find out whether their children are buckled up properly. Each caregiver must bring the child and the child's car seat to the event. Registration is required. To register, please visit victoriatx.gov/car seat. On behalf of the Main Street program, we'd like to invite you to celebrate the dedication of new lampposts, benches, and heritage sites to beautify downtown Victoria on September 4th, that's tomorrow as well, at 6 p.m. while enjoying hors d'oeuvres, drinks, and fellowship at the historic house venue. Tickets and sponsorship opportunities can be purchased online at the Linktree, which is linktr.ee/VTX Main Street, or by contacting Kate Garcia, our Victoria Main Street manager, at 361-485-3120. On behalf of the library, September is National Library Card Sign-Up Month, and the Victoria Public Library is hosting the second year of our Show Your Library Card program. This year, we have over 50 businesses signed up to offer a special promotion anytime someone shops with them and shows their library card. This program helps us increase library awareness while also highlighting all the amazing local businesses in our community. Also, in partnership with Friends of the Library, the new library card members that sign up will receive a one-time voucher for $1 off any purchase at one of the upcoming book sales, which will take place September 15th through the 21st, January 19th through the 25th, and May 11th through 17th. Lastly, on behalf of the police department, we'd like to invite everybody out to our National Night Out Kickoff Party, which will take place on Saturday, September 21st from 3 to 6 p.m. in De Leon Plaza. The kickoff party is a free family-friendly event featuring entertainment by area youth, activities for kids, and information from local businesses and community organizations. To host a booth or become a sponsor, please contact VPD's Community Engagement Unit at 361-485-3808 or policeceu@victoriatx.gov. And those are the ones that I have this evening. Chris Euchre will provide one here shortly as well.
Very good. Then we will move on then to item B2, which is public and employee recognitions. And 2A is Hunger Action Month Proclamation. Ms. Hilbert.
Yes, sir. Whereas hunger and poverty are issues of vital concern in Texas, where 1 in 8 people face food insecurity and 1 in every 5 children do not know where their next meal will come from, and whereas everyone needs nutritious food to thrive, and in every community in America, people are working hard to provide for themselves and their families, yet in 2022, 44 million people, including more than 13 million children, face food insecurity in the U.S. In Victoria County, 14% of our population, or 1 in every 7 residents, are food insecure. And whereas the City of Victoria is committed to taking steps to combat hunger in every part of our community and to provide additional resources that those in Victoria need, and whereas the City of Victoria is committed to working with the Food Bank of the Golden Crescent, a member of the Feeding Feeding America nationwide network of food banks in educating people about the role and importance of food banks in addressing hunger and raising awareness for the need to devote more resources and attention to hunger issues. And whereas more than 40,000 people in the Golden Crescent region rely on food provided by the Food Bank of the Golden Crescent each month, whereas the Food Bank of the Golden Crescent distributed more than 5 million meals in 2023 through its network of food pantries, soup kitchens, and shelters, and other community organizations. And whereas the month of September has been designated as Hunger Action Month in order to bring attention to food insecurity in our communities and to enlist the public in the movement to end hunger by taking action, including volunteer shifts, social media shares, and donations to ensure every community and everybody in it has the food they need to thrive. Whereas the food banks across the country, including the Food Bank of the Golden Crescent, continue to work tirelessly throughout the month of September to bring food awareness and help end hunger in their local community. Now therefore I, Duane Crocker, do hereby recognize September 2024 as Hunger Action Month in Victoria, Texas, and I call this observant to the attentions of our citizens.
You're welcome to stay if you're ready.
I do want to thank everyone for watching and keeping up with what we do. I do want to invite each and every one of you, even everyone in the audience, to come by sometime this month at 801 South Laurent. Check out our facility, our new facility. We are also back in the old facility with the senior feeding program. We thought we outgrew it, but we need it. So come on by, take a tour, volunteer, donate, just learn what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate all that y'all do for our community. Moving on then to our next public and employee recognition is the Keep Victoria Beautiful September Beautification Award. Ms. Euchre. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before we do the honors tonight, I want to remind everyone we have our big fall sweep cleanup September 21st. And if you haven't done one before, we invite everyone in the community to come help on September 21st to pick up trash in Victoria. So if you ever find yourself going, oh, it looks pretty bad today, then here's your reason to get out and clean up trash. As you know, this is a way that it doesn't not only make us feel better as residents, but to outsiders that come into Victoria, to businesses looking to come to Victoria, when it looks like we care and we do, it makes a difference. So for those that have come out before, we're happy to see them back again. We are aiming for at least 400 people at this cleanup. I'm hoping to get to 500. The more people we get, the more places we clean up. We clean up all over Victoria. Our main location is at Target at 8 o'clock. And then teams will be also out in the community at remote locations. But don't worry, everybody gets food. Even at remote locations, we will deliver the tacos. So it's all about having a great time and helping Victoria look even better than it does today. And you can sign up at keepvictoriabeautiful.org. And we like to know who's coming, so please let us know just so we can plan. And wear closed-toed shoes and come ready for a good time. And with that, I'm going to let Meredith Bird with Keep Victoria Beautiful announce our winner.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to first start off by reminding the community that anybody can submit nominations for this monthly award. There's a short nomination form on the keepvictoriabeautiful.org website. You can contact Environmental Services and just give it straight to Christy or Clarissa there. You can comment on one of our posts where we're congratulating this month's winner. And so we love to see nominations come in from the community. It doesn't have to be a particularly big property with lots of green space. Any sort of organization or business that you feel is doing a really great job of putting their best foot forward, we want to know about it so that we can recognize them. And so tonight, I am proud to present this award to Faith Family Church. Everybody knows where Faith Family is. You know that it is an enormous property that has to require just consistent upkeep with not just the mowing, but the landscaping and keeping the building looking nice. And just from top to bottom, this location, they moved in 1998. And it has consistently been a fantastic looking property. And in fact, they are a past award winner. We learned today that they won this award back in 2010, give or take, which is, I'm part of this newer iteration of Keep Victoria Beautiful. And so I always like hearing about things that, previous award winners that I just, wasn't even aware of at the time. And so this is fantastic. So this shows that Faith Family has been doing a wonderful job of beautifying our community for a long time. And so tonight I'd like to present this award to Tamara Graff of Faith Family Church.
Well, thank you so much for this award for Faith Family Church. We really appreciate that. It's a team effort to keep things created and looking good, and so we definitely know that, and this will keep us on our toes to keep doing that. So we, like you, love this community, and we love doing our part to make it look better and be better in every way that we can. So again, thank you for all that you do, and thank you so much for the honor of this award.
Thank you, Ms. Graff. Congratulations. Okay, Mr. Garza, do you have any other public and employee recognitions? No, sir. Okay, items from council. Does anyone have anything? I had one real quick. I know that on tonight's agenda, of course, is the budget for next fiscal year, which obviously we have been working on some time, and we've had a lot of information about it, and particularly much of the discussions were around employee pay and that program. And so my item that I want to let everyone know is I don't want that issue to go away just because we're getting out of the budget cycle. I don't want it to get lost. And so my intention is here in the next month or so to appoint a committee, a subcommittee of council made up of 3 members that will keep the discussion going about the budget issues, about pay for our employees throughout the next year, because I don't want it to be an item that just kind of gets dropped and then we pick it up again at budget time. I think it deserves our attention year round. And so stay tuned, because that will be coming. So I just wanted to let everyone know about that. So any other items from council? Okay, then we will move into section C, which is items with public hearings, and we'll start with C1. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we won't. Thank you, Ms. Scott.
You're welcome, sir.
Instead, we'll hear from Michael Vanderwaal as part of Citizens Communication.
Good evening, council.
I wouldn't forget about you, man. I almost got to hearings without you.
I live at 2204 East North Street, and there's a lot of sewer leaks and plumbing leaks, and they are fixing it, but at a snail's pace. Last week, they worked Friday and Saturday, and the following week worked Wednesday. So in 2 weeks, they've worked 3 days. And I don't know why they're not putting much focus on getting it fixed. It's a mud pit, and Public Works just got their street sweeper and swept it real nice on 2204, and it's nothing but mud just caked everywhere. And I don't know why the trailer park owner don't want to focus on getting it done. There's no reason he can't. If he don't have the people to do it, he could hire Yannick Plumbing or L&M Plumbing. And I would like the municipal court judge to go to the trailer park and just look and see how bad it is. I have to wear scuba booties, because it just ruins my shoes. It's just caked with mud, and you can't walk through that because you're like slipping and falling, and the speed limit is 20 miles per hour. It really should be 5, and you can't hardly drive through there. And Meals on Wheels is having trouble coming there because their car is sliding, and you almost need a 4-wheel drive to get through that. And I don't know why the trailer park owner doesn't want to take care of it. That's his responsibility. He's been making delays and excuses. He's a seasoned professional attorney, and he makes a lot of money, and he's very successful. And I would like for him to put some money into it, because we're paying $410 a month lot fee, and there's 32 lots. So think about how much money he's making. $410 lot fee times 32, that's over $10,000 a month, And I would like for him to fix it. I just feel embarrassed living there, and there's mud all over the main street. And a lot of the people that work for the city of Victoria, they see all that stuff, And I don't know why he don't want to fix it. There's really no excuse. And, him just getting fined $500 is nothing. That's just 1 hour's worth of work for him. That'd be like a nickel to me. But I do want him to fix it. I would like for him to come in person. Thanks, and have a good day. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Vonda. I have a couple other cards as well. The first one is Kendra Nape Ward, I believe. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening. Excuse my voice. I've got laryngitis, but I'm not contagious. So I live at 406 East Warren Avenue. Moved in at the end of February of this year, and noticed that we have a really bad rodent problem stemming from the vacant house at 408 East Warren. There is a broken down Winnebago, and if you go out there at dusk, you're gonna get to see all kinds of critters. The reason for my coming tonight is last week I was in my backyard, and rats the size of a small dog were running all along her fence, and it's a health hazard. So then my AC went out. So I was like, what's going on? Went and checked it. The rats had eaten the wires. Can I prove it? No. I've got cameras, but they're not gonna pick up, that far out. But the HVAC, the two guys said that it looks just from the crumbles of the electrical tape. So, I know that there's gonna be raccoons, possums, but the rat issue is becoming definitely a health hazard. And my neighbors have tried for 5 years, according to what they have told me, to get this neighbor's house cleaned up. She doesn't live there. And it's an eyesore. So that's it. Just wanted to let you guys know I have called the city and spoke with the entity that would handle that. They said they were going to open a case. I've never been, and that's been about 3 weeks ago. And that's it. Just if we can do anything, if I can do anything, I don't want to go on her property, for obvious reasons. But I just can't have rats roaming around my backyard, my house, and come winter, they're gonna start looking for warm place, and it doesn't need to be my house. So.
Well, thank you for passing along the
all right.
information. Thank you.
Y'all. Have a good evening.
You too, ma'am. Mr. Fisk. Good evening. Welcome, Mr. Fisk.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Here tonight representing the Friends of the Library. all right? Beginning September 15th, which is a Sunday, we start our 3 times a year book sale. That Sunday, it's open to members only, but you can join. Costs $10 a year to be a member. Then on Monday, of course, we open up for the general public. On Sunday, we're only open from noon till 2, right? The short time period, but it's when you have the best selection of books. Right? Generally speaking, for those that are not familiar with the sale, most hardcover books go for $2, most paperbacks for $1. There are a few books that are priced higher because they're of little greater value. And we have books to meet most anybody's reading desires. It's also a great place to pick up children's books. I have a tremendous number of children's books this year. All right. And the money that is raised for that, part of it goes into the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program to encourage literacy so that when kids enter preschool or kindergarten, they are better prepared. All right. They learn early on a love of reading and get to, sit there quietly and read. So it's a good program. Friends of the Library are now the financial sponsors of that program. It is a library program, and it's similar to programs throughout the country. Also, I will mention that on Tuesday, September 17th, is National Voter Registration Day. All right. The library, I will be there to register voters, but the library does register voters all year round, and I'll actually be at the library pretty much all week to register voters. The sale ends on Saturday, September 21st. That's what's known as Bag Day. If you have a Friends of the Library book bag from any year, you can fill that bag for $1. All right, and take that bag out to your car, dump it in your trunk, and come back in and do it all over again. So I strongly encourage people to register to vote. I encourage them to come out to the Friends of the Library book sale. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisk. Appreciate the reminder. I have one more card, but I believe this is for Mr. Harrington, who is here to speak on item C1, and so I will call him shortly. So now we can move on to item C1.
Item C1 is a resolution hearing an appeal on the Building and Standards Commission's demolition order for 3010 East Rio Grande.
Good evening, Council. So if you remember, just 2 weeks ago, you heard the appeal of the Building Standards Commission order, and I just have some photographs to show you of progress or lack thereof over the last 2 weeks. So on one side of the PowerPoint, you will see photos that were taken July 9th, right before the Building Standards Commission order meeting was held, and then the other picture is pictures that were taken this morning. So you can see from the front, the 2 doors were boarded up, and those openings were closed. And the tires were removed. But that's the extent of the repairs that have been made. We generally thought that there would be further progress made on this structure. It's a fairly simple structure once you get a contractor out there. But as you can see, very minimal progress except for boarding up the doors and windows. And for that reason, staff does recommend that the order be upheld and we proceed with demolition.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Vogel? Has there been any other contact with the owner in terms of anticipated plans or things of that nature?
Yes, so he's been called multiple times by either Code Enforcement Supervisor or Rick Madrid. I believe his contractor contracted COVID was a reason for for the main delay. And then I believe he has a family member that is a roofer that's too busy to get to this project at this time. I will add that when our code enforcement supervisor, sorry, she was just promoted, Michelle Tyree, went out Friday to check progress. She did encounter some human feces and other debris that does show that this property is still an attractive nuisance. Narrowly missed that. So when she was doing her inspections to see what progress has been made. So we do have concerns that it's going to continue to be an attractive nuisance.
Okay. Any other questions? Sure.
Julie, if driving by the property and looking at the area, are there other buildings within that area that are also?
Yes, there's actually quite a few. There is one property owner that owns about 4 to 6 of those properties that Rick has been working with for approximately 2 years to try and get them to compliance. We're not having a lot of success, so the next step is taking it to the Building Standards Commission.
And I also noticed on that picture, it looked like there'd been some facing that had happened on the roof.
Yes, it looks like on the, thanks for catching that, I didn't point that out. On the front fascia board, it would have been originally been falling off. So that portion was repaired. The roof structure, or the roof covering has extended its lifespan and does need to be repaired, as well as some of the decking, as you saw from the holes in one of the photos. So a complete re-roof is necessary.
Any other questions?
So this is the extent of repairs made over the last 4 weeks? Because it was August 6th when we met.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Fulgham. With that, then, I will call the... Sir, I'm going to open the public hearing, and if you'd like to address this issue, please come forward. So I will open the public hearing on item C1.
Stay here where I can ask you some questions. Can you do that?
These photos were taken today. You can see
Huh?
that these photos were taken today. You can see the timestamp.
Okay, now look, you see that these doors are covered? And this has got new here, but they didn't have it for there. He's got-
Mr. Harrington, Mr. Harrington,
I'm sick.
Mr. Harrington, this is an opportunity for you to address the council. This isn't a question and answer session with staff. And so I'll give you 3 minutes as part of the public hearing to address the council on what you would like us to know as the decision makers. So please go ahead.
Okay, I want to ask her a question.
No, sir, I don't think you understand. This is an opportunity for you to address us, not to interrogate staff. And so if you'd like to address us, this is your opportunity to do so.
Okay, these two pictures that she's showing here, the one of them, somebody broke the windows out on the doors, and I thought they were going to steal the doors because they had the hinges off of one of them. But they told me that they was afraid that people were going to get in there and stay, these people that are supposedly coming across the border, and I don't know, from China and all over. And it may be true. I'm not trying to discourage closing the border down here to Mexico if they want to. That's not my business. That's not my job. But if that's what they got to do, then they got to do it. That's up to the people that are paid to do those jobs. All right, but here, what we're saying here, and what you saw there, if you look up there, you see two doors that have been taken loose and the windows have been broken out. Well, they told me they was afraid people were going to get in there and spend the night. Well, there's junk up. When I gave the trailer and stuff away, the people of the city got that, I gave them the trailer, and it was aluminum, and they got paid pretty good for it, but that's all right. That's what I wanted to be done. I wanted to get rid of that trailer because I couldn't collect the rent from the people, and I'd had 3 different people there, and I couldn't collect the rent from them. They just didn't have enough income, and they were running the place down, and it wasn't doing me any good. My boy didn't want to move back into it at that time, but he wanted to keep the property in case he decided to. And I bought the property, and it's in my name. But anyway, those doors have been put back in place and they've been covered. If you look at the other side, you can see that there's been fresh sheets of plywood put over it and it's been painted. All right, now the eaves was bad here in the middle where the roof is bad, and I've got a grandson that's taken over my older boy's business of re-roofing, and he's gonna get around to it and put a new roof on there, but he can't do it until he gets his customers. He's quite popular, and my boy was too, and they've got a lot of work. And they can't do it until they get time, which may be a month, I don't know. He's told me that as soon as he's got an opening, he'll repair the roof. All right, now the guy that was working on it put those on the doors, and we could see that picture of the side over there where the windows were that you were talking about, those not repaired, over at the windows. Right there. Okay, now we've gone back and repaired this, and we put plywood over both of the windows. See, did you know that? I mean, you took.
Mr. Harrington, again, this is your opportunity to
You
address
didn't mention
council,
that
not,
to the council, did you?
okay.
Now, we've done.
Mr. Harrington, I'm sorry, you're not following my instruction, and your time is up, sir.
Okay?
Your time is up, sir. You had 3 minutes, and we appreciate your comments, and so I will ask if there's anyone else who would like to address council as part of this public hearing.
What are you deciding to do on this?
Let's,
You ain't gonna tell me anything.
Is there anyone else that would like to address council at this time? Mr. Garza?
Sure. I just want to clarify that he's had an opportunity to speak with staff several times just in the course of the last several weeks, with the most recent time being meeting with and speaking with Rick Madrid, I should say, this morning. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that there has been communication and he has spoken with staff about these issues that have come up tonight.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. All right. If no one else is here to speak, then I will close the public hearing on item C1. Are there any further questions for staff on those? All right. I will entertain any motions with respect to item C1.
I move we uphold the decision of the Building and Standards Commission.
I'll second.
All right, so I've got a motion and a second on C1. Now, discussion. Is there any discussion among council on this?
I'd like to.
Sure.
It does look like there's been, we had a statement from Julie that the contractor had COVID. Is it possible to set parameters in place that say he needs to hire a different roofer instead of using his family? Because that seems to be a holdup on his end as well. I find it hard to move forward when we have a gentleman who's actively coming to us and asking for our assistance, and in goodwill, we're listening, when we also hear that others in the community that they've been working with for 2 years on other properties there. So my opinion is there a way for us to find some middle ground with this gentleman, which I recognize that we've already given the 30 days, and I'm aware of that. But if his contractor has had COVID, that's what you said, Julie, his contractor had COVID?
That's what he stated to us. And there's a bit of a difference between this property and the ones across the street. The ones across the street are actually occupied units, and this is an accessory structure. And so that's where, because of the state laws and the requirements to not displace folks, we try and work really, really hard whenever it's an actually occupied unit versus an accessory structure or an abandoned or unoccupied home or structure.
So Ms. Fulgham, has there been any plan that's been communicated to you in terms of a time frame, in terms of the action items to be done on this?
No, I haven't spoken directly with Mr. Harrington except for one time right after the first appeal. Rick Madrid has primarily been the one that's in contact, as well as Michelle Tyree, and it's kind of the same. When my contractor gets better, when my son has time in his schedule. So we haven't ever been able to pin down a specific date. They've also communicated to him to come pull a permit, and that those permits have never been pulled. So we generally did believe during the building standards that, he may actually move forward and get this done. And the last month has proven to us that that might not be the case.
And remind me, in terms of the initial notices that went out, when did that happen? How long has this been going on?
So I believe it's in May, is in the staff report, when the first initial inspection was done.
Kate's history says April 18th, 2024. Code enforcement observed the carport.
So that would have been shortly after they did the field work. They would have come in the office within 10 days and given the first notice. And then the official legal notice to the Building Standards Commission would have gone out before June 23rd.
Julie, what is his overall intention for the building once it's supposedly remodeled? I mean, it's not a
Right,
dwelling, is it?
It's just an accessory structure. So if there was ever a site-built home built on site or a manufactured home, although its current location will be a limiting factor in certain manufactured homes that could be placed on that lot. It would just be an accessory structure to a primary structure that is developed in the future on the lot.
I may be looking at this a little oddly, but the fact that the doors and the windows have now been boarded, I mean, normally we would applaud that because it would secure the property, but that's not usually what you do when you're in the process of renovating the property. That, to me, was a step in the wrong direction. And I think that's part of why my feeling was to uphold this, because I don't see this structure being redone. That's just the way I'm looking at it.
Yes, on a property that's just dilapidated, we do want the holes, and we don't really have great pictures, but this rot at the foundation is really what we get really concerned about, because when you introduce rot at the foundation level, then those wood beams that are holding the building up can fail if left in its current state.
Could you clarify something for me? You said it's an accessory building?
Mm-hmm.
Is there another building on the lot?
No, there used to be a manufactured home, or I'm not even sure it was actually a manufactured home. It looked like it was a trailer home, which the difference is a trailer predates, I believe, 1967. After 1967, there are manufactured homes that are built to a HUD standard.
Any other questions, comments? No? Okay, I believe we have a motion and a second to uphold the demolition order of the Buildings and Standards Commissions. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
So item C1 then passes with one abstention.
I just wanted to clarify, you wanted to abstain. You don't want to vote no. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Then we will move on. The second item for public hearing is item C2.
All right, so I'm going to take Wesley's spot on this one and just very quickly run through a high-level summary of the proposed budget. We are going to, if Mayor, if you're still okay with this, we do anticipate going a little bit out of order.
Yes, absolutely.
And so once we get through the public hearing for the budget, April and the mayor will call item E1, which is the action item associated with the budget. Then we'll transition to a public hearing on the tax rate. And then we'll go back to E2 to take action on the tax rate. And that way we handle all of these budget and tax rate items at this point of the meeting before the mayor proceeds with the consent agenda and so on and so forth. So as part of this aspect, this short, it's literally 5 or 6 slides, presentation is intended to cover a high-level summary of the budget and the proposed tax rates. And so those are the 2 items that are before you this evening. Whoa there. I don't know where that blue came from, but we'll roll with it. It's supposed to be a white background. So, huh?
Wesley's would have been
What do you mean
white.
the other one? It's okay, you can still see it, which that's all that matters. And so you just never know what you're gonna get sometimes when you pull up presentations. But in any case, so the proposed budget is a $194 million budget. This is a high-level breakdown of the different funds that make up that $194 million. Of course, the general fund is our biggest fund, which is just roughly at around $61.5 million. A construction fund, which is nearly $41 million. That's one of the biggest differences in fiscal year 25 compared to 24, and so on and so forth. On the right-hand side of this slide is an even further breakdown of the general fund. This is, of course, what our primary fund because of the core operations and that of the city that are included in this fund, including public safety, administration, parks, and some public works functions as well. Just really briefly, the outer ring of this is intended to represent the revenues that go into our general fund, and the middle pie chart, if you will, is intended to show the expenses of the general fund. And again, the general fund is $61.5 million, and the overall proposed budget is $194. I do want to just briefly hit on the fact that this fiscal year proposed budget for 25, of course, takes into account us maintaining strong reserves as well as being mindful of the economy. I'm not going to reiterate a lot of the same points that were discussed at the June workshop and last month when we officially proposed the budget. Of course, it's a balanced budget as it legally has to be. Of course, there was an opportunity to decrease the property tax rate, and I'll pull up a high-level summary of that here shortly. And of course, we were also able to implement, with your direction, a proposed pay program that I'll also hit at a high level here in the next couple of slides. We were also able to make some improvements to our health plan, which I'll get into, and we are able to continue our investment in streets, which is a big priority for everyone, with a capital program of roughly $41 million. On the revenue side, the biggest item of importance that I know matters to you and the public is, of course, the tax rate. And so this is intended to showcase the proposed tax rate, which is 0.4707, which is a decrease of nearly 2 cents to the current tax rate. At the very bottom of this slide, I think, is one of the most important aspects of the situation of the property tax rate and our property tax revenue going into fiscal year 25, in that we are actually anticipated to collect less money in fiscal year 25 than we did in fiscal year 24. However, because of our ability to pay off some debt sooner, we're able to transition some money from the INS rate over to the M&O rate, which does increase the revenue in our M&O side of the house, but without it necessarily affecting our taxpayers. And so I think that's very, very important, because it can be misleading if one chooses to solely focus on the increased revenue on the M&O side without contemplating for the decrease on the INS side. And so this bottom portion of this very clearly shows the decrease on the debt rate and the increase on the M&O side, which is the general fund aspect of it.
Mr. Garza, am I correct that I know that there's certain statutory language that has to be used on adoption of a tax rate or making a motion of a tax rate, and that focuses more on the M&O side, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And so that language can be confusing when you're talking about the overall.
100%,
Yes,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah. And SB 2, which of course we all have come to understand is the new law of the land as it relates to how we approach the calculation of the tax rate, how much additional property tax revenue we can collect. It's all centered around the M&O side of it. One of the things I forgot to mention is that for fiscal year 2025, we're also proposing including a $500,000 bond redemption program to continue our practice of finishing paying off debt sooner. This, of course, not only creates some additional capacity in the future, but actually helps us save money, because just like it works in our normal lives when we have a car loan or a home loan, right? If you're able to pay that off sooner, you end up saving some money on the interest side. And so that's something that we've gotten in the habit of doing and we'll continue to moving forward. Of course, one of the questions that we always get is, what is the impact to our taxpayers? And so I should have probably included a slide highlighting the increase to our NTAV, which was 3.4%. And so 3.7%. 3.7%. But a very small portion of that was due to the residential part of it. And so we normally calculate that roughly 75% of the increase in the NTV is attributed to residential. That actually wasn't the case in this year's evaluation. Nonetheless, we still utilize the 2.8% average increase to values in calculating the slide deck here. And using that average, since of course all we have to go off of is the aggregate number, you see the decrease in property taxes paid on the far right-hand side. Now, obviously, if somebody's property value went up higher than 2.8% or went up significantly, then they are likely to pay some additional property tax revenue. But on average, using the aggregate information that's available to us, the majority of property owners will see a decrease in that on the residential side. Any questions on property tax rate? Okay. On the expenditure side, of course, the biggest item of discussion, as the mayor alluded to at the very beginning of the meeting, was related to the compensation part of it. And so I do want to provide a high-level overview on the pay program that's included in the fiscal year 25 budget, which is in essence a 3% across the board increase for all of our employees. Police and fire will continue to receive a step increase in fiscal year 25, except normally it's a 3%, but in fiscal year 25, it'll be a 1%. And so for the individuals that are due a step within police and fire throughout, at some point in fiscal year 25, they'll actually see a 4% increase instead of the 3% that everybody else will be receiving within the organization. We're also increasing minimum wage to $15. We're increasing part-time wage to $12 an hour. So we're also making some positive strides on the part-time pay as well. The cost impact to this proposed pay program, which totals $1.4 million, is actually significantly less than that. It's roughly $846,000 because of a couple of adjustments that we're anticipating for and planning for in fiscal year 25 that I hope create some capacity for some cash. So one of those, the big one, is baseline adjustments. This could have also been worded a little bit different, but this baseline adjustment figure of $456,000 accounts for the indefinite freezing of 10 positions within our organization in fiscal year 25. All of these positions are within our public works department. It's the department that has the majority of our vacancies, and so we're trying to just try a different approach to how we fund our pay programs. And I mentioned to you and I mentioned to our employees that I'd rather have less employees on paper, but those lesser employees on paper get paid better than having more employees on paper. And so we're trying something a little bit different going into fiscal year 25. We've also, as part of the pay program discussion over the last few months, discussed some possible changes to the TMRS. And so, of course, one of the biggest ones, which did have a negative impact on our employees, was the decrease to the updated service credit. And so to be clear, the proposal for fiscal year 25 does not account for a decrease to the updated service credit. However, it does account for roughly $122,000 in savings that would come by adopting a new non-retroactive COLA. We are not recommending a decrease to the cost of living adjustment, which is currently at 70% for retirees. It's simply just a new option that's been made available recently, and I'm happy to delve into greater detail at a later time, but there is no aggregate negative impact to the COLA of 70%. That is changing. But there is some savings just produced by a new way of calculating that cost of living adjustment. And of course, that direction came from you in July, when Derek was in front of you presenting the options for you to consider. And that's what's included in the proposed budget. We did also try and make clear as part of the proposed budget that even though the net effect or the net impact of what I just discussed as the pay program is $846,000, there's actually an increase to personnel across the board of close to $1.4 million. Some of that is attributed to what I just discussed, which is the pay program, that's $846,000, but we're also increasing fire overtime line items. We're also seeing an increase in workman's comp. We're also increasing temp pay, in part because of what I described, that we're also increasing part-time pay as part of the pay program in fiscal year 25. We're also able to make an improvement to the health plan, as I alluded to a few minutes ago. This is just a brief summary of some of the historical efforts that we've done in order to do that. On the far right-hand side, you'll see what we're proposing for fiscal year 25, which includes a one-time $500 contribution. This one-time $500 contribution for employees can go to one of three options, not multiple. So to be clear, an employee would have to pick one of these three options. Could go into a health savings account, which an employee would be eligible for that if they're currently on a high deductible plan, which we have two of those. Those are the only two options we have now. A flexible spending plan, which will become an option fiscal year 25 when we introduce a new EPO plan, which I'll get to in a second, or contribute $500 into a 457, which is another retirement account that we would be able to help facilitate through Mission Square. All in all, that's estimated to cost a little over $200,000. An employee will be able to make their selection as part of open enrollment this fall when they go through that process. As I alluded to earlier, we're also including a new option, which is an EPO plan, which is an exclusive provider organization plan. One of the more common, consistent feedbacks we've received in the 5 years that I've been here has been a desire to try and go to a plan that has some reliable, not reliable, but affordable and reliable and consistent costs for copays, a lower deductible, lower out-of-pocket, things of that sort. And so we've been able to work with our benefits consultant and Blue Cross Blue Shield to create a new plan that will go into effect in January of 2025. There will be a minimal cost impact to that, to us, which is referred to there as $116,000, because we do foresee employees shifting from the current high deductible plans to this new EPO plan. To be clear, the premiums for the existing high deductible plans will not change. However, the cost of the EPO plan will be higher because there's a better benefit that comes from that, right? And so being self-insured, we need to make sure that the money that's collected through the premiums is enough to cover our claims cost. And so there's a direct correlation between that. But ultimately, this is a great start. This is a great beginning because we're able to start this conversation of employees having a better option. And of course, we're only able to really consider this because of the health fund associated, the healthiness of our health fund balance, which is at now, it's where it was 10 years ago, basically. And so we've done a great job of building that back up. Any questions on that?
I like the healthiness of our health fund.
The healthiness of our health fund, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll come up with something better next time. Okay, I'm trying to move quickly, so I apologize. Okay, so what's in front of you today and what I've just gone over is what we went over on August 6th. As you know, sometimes there are things that occur from the moment that we propose the budget before adoption that we sometimes introduce as amendments. And so when we get to the budget next week, you will see a small adjustment to the budget that will be presented next week. That adjustment will be to the tune of $183,000. And so we've been working on trying to develop a strategy for, in essence, the landfill. As you know, Daryl's done a great job, and Gilbert and others have done a great job in extending the life of our landfill, also diversifying the types of materials that it can take. Coincidentally, the current contract of the management of the landfill actually expires in 2027, I believe. And so we want to start game planning for that because we will have to go through a pretty comprehensive and complex RFP process leading up to that. That's not something that just happens overnight. And so we finally just last week received the game plan on how to do that. And so you'll get more details on that next week. Daryl is preparing a high-level overview of that game plan for you for next week, and then we'll take a deeper dive in October. But for now, just wanted to give you a courtesy heads up that you will see an increase to the proposed budget for $183,000 to go towards this effort, which in essence will be engaging a consultant to help us through this effort. It's a very common practice that we do whenever we do some of these high-stake, high-profile RFP processes is we engage with consultants that have more subject matter expertise on these matters to help us with that. So just want to be transparent with this amendment that you'll see next week. Additionally, you should have in your read file, and we have also posted these on the website as well in the proposed budget. Through feedback that we've received from several of you, we actually developed 2 new schedules that you have a physical copy of in front of you, and like I said, are now available on the proposed budget website. One of those schedules is a high-level summary of our one-time expenditures. This was a really great idea to put something like this together because otherwise you'd have to go through every single department's budget page or budget story to try and calculate and figure out what are your one-time expenditures, right? And so this is a really good document to just provide you an overview of all of the one-time expenditures in the proposed budget for fiscal year 25. It's broken down by department, by fund. And at the very end, you'll see how they total roughly $13 million. And so please feel free to review that at your leisure. But again, this is just another way for us to be more transparent with what is in the proposed budget from a one-time expenditure standpoint. The second item is a analysis overview of transfers in and out. This is another one of those items that if you wanted to really try and get a handle around, well, what is the movement of the transfers in and out throughout the various funds, you really would have had to have gone through different budget pages and budget stories to try and figure it out. And so we've made it a lot easier now for you and for residents to really see very clearly what are the transfers in and out for every single fund that's in the proposed budget. And you have that as well to review at your leisure. And again, these are also available on the proposed budget online. And so with that, I'll entertain any other questions, comments, concerns.
Thank you for these, very helpful. Anybody have any other questions? No? Okay, thank you for the refresher overview, much appreciated. So with that then, item C2 is the public budget hearing. And if anyone wishes to speak on this matter, please come forward at this time. Seeing no one then, I will close the public hearing and we will move down to action items from council to item E1.
Item E1 is an ordinance approving and adopting a budget for fiscal year beginning on October 1st, 2024, in the total amount of $193,933,623. And this item is on first reading.
Thank you, Ms. Hilbert. I'll entertain any motions with respect to item E1.
Make a motion to approve item E1.
I second it.
Got a motion and a second on E1. Any further discussion on next year's budget? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item E1 passes, so we'll jump back to public hearings with item C3 is a public hearing on the 2024-2025 City of Victoria tax rate. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on this item? Please come forward at this time. Seeing no one, then I will close the public hearing and we will move down to item E2.
Item E2 is an ordinance setting the tax rate for the 2024 tax year at a total rate of .4707 per $100 of property valuation, and this item is also on first reading.
Do I have any motions on item E2?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of .4707, which is effectively a 0.09% increase in the tax rate.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Got a motion and a second in a properly worded motion according to state law. Thank you, Dr. Young.
Not my first go-round.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item E2 passes. Then I believe that concludes section C, and we will move to section D, which is the consent agenda. Ms. Hilbert.
Item D1 is the adoption of minutes of the regular meeting held on August 20th, 2024. Item D2 is an ordinance vacating, closing, and abandoning the unimproved portions of Wolfram Street, Hunding Street, and Elsa Street in their entirety, and blocks 1, 3, and 4 of the Greens Edition in the City of Victoria in response to a petition of 100% of the adjoining landowners. This item is on second and third reading. Item D3 is a resolution approving an interlocal agreement with Texas Municipal League Joint Cyber Liability Data Breach Response Self-Insurance Fund for cyber coverage. Item D4 is a resolution approving a variance to Section 21-138 Land Use Table of the City Code, which allows for properties located northeast of the intersection of U.S. Highway 87 South and FM 2615 owned by Richard Gressel to be subdivided into lots with area sizes below the required minimum size. Item D5 is a resolution approving the purchase of one 2024 International CB515 from Fraser Type 1 14-foot ambulance body from Fraser LTD using buy board contract number ambulances 650-21 in an amount of $349,035. Item D6 is a resolution awarding the 2024 sanitary sewer cleaning project to Branch Construction Group LLC for their competitive sealed proposal amount of $88,000. And item D7 is a resolution amending Resolution 2023-172, approving the annual purchase of uniforms for the Victoria Fire Department from Galls Incorporated.
Thank you, Ms. Hilbert. Any motions on the consent agenda?
I move we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda passes. So then moving back to item E then, we will move to item E3.
Item E3 is a resolution approving an agreement with Motorola Solutions Incorporated for the purchase and installation of a new 120-foot communications tower as part of the Public Safety Headquarters project for an amount not to exceed $260,214.
Good afternoon, Council. My presentation actually covers both sections that I have, the 120-foot tower and also the Motorola Public Safety.
Oh, so that's item E3 and E4?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please go ahead.
So the first section is installation of our new 120-foot tower. This will be a self-supporting tower. There will be no guidelines. It is rated for 130-plus mile-per-hour wind rating, so hopefully we'll survive any hurricanes that we get. Our R56 grounding per Motorola standards, that's just basically it's the grounding, just make sure if we do get some lightning, it's not going to go into the building. It is designed to support one 4-foot microwave dish and 8 antennas that we currently have on our existing tower at 911 dispatch. And we do have additional growth capacity of 50%, so we can add some more antennas on there. It consists of 3 separate parts. We have a foundation design that will be conducted by Motorola. We also have an installation of a new foundation. Now that is listed as optional because they have provided us with a quote for that. However, we also feel that the contractor is pouring the concrete now could possibly give us a better price if we have them pour that foundation itself. So that is why it's listed as optional. The foundation will be a concrete mat with 3 piers, approximately 20 to 30 feet buried underground. Financial, this will be a Roan 120-foot tower for roughly $95,000. The installation of the tower for $64,000. The design of $9,965. That design is something that we will need to have, and if we're going back to the contractor with Spalglass, they will use that foundation design to bid their installation. So the total cost of the tower construction itself is $168,785, and then the foundation is $91,200 for our total cost, including the options of $260,000. The tower locations, just to give you an idea, so we'll have this tower at the new public safety headquarters, and it's as the bird flies, roughly a little bit under 5 miles to the south tower, our prime site on Boat Road. And that's basically what I have on that one, if you have any discussions on that.
Any questions on that? Yep. Please proceed.
Thank you. Okay, I wanted to bring this up because it's important to understand that there's actually, I say multiple networks. If you really get down to it, if you look at it, 5 networks that have to be moved. And all these networks have to be moved simultaneously. So while we're looking at this, and this proposal is for the Motorola network, we actually will have to also contract with AT&T, PSAP to get their equipment moved over. Our equipment will have to be moved over. Our network will have to be moved over, and it'll be a simultaneous thing that's going to be occurring. So it's going to be a lot of juggling.
It'll be a busy day for you.
It's going to be a very busy, I don't know how long that's going to take.
Right.
So obviously we'll start with the installation of the 120-foot tower, and then we'll get into the part where we're actually going to be relocating the dispatch console positions. And then the Astro Core is actually the Motorola Core servers that are in the back room, all the equipment that's in the back room, that will be relocated. And then as the final phase, we'll install the new microwave, put that on, and bring that online. So the dispatch console relocation, it's going to be done in 2 phases. So we're actually going to take, depending, 2 to 4 console positions and move them over to the new public safety headquarters. So basically imagine we'll have 2 dispatch running simultaneously. And this will be, like I said, it has to be coordinated with AT&T for the PSAP, that it has to be happening off of there on our network too, because they have to get the CAD, RMS, so that's where it's going to be a lot of juggling. The remaining consoles will be moved after they've tested and verified that everything is working properly. And then the PSAP will also be moved over during that phase. We will have to provide dedicated fiber between the two sites, and it will be provided for us. We currently have going to our public safety headquarters, and that's where we plan on picking up our fiber. From there, we have 72 pairs of fiber. So there's plenty of fiber that we can allocate to this project, and then for it to remain permanent in there. The Astro core relocation and the Ethernet network conversion, that's actually when they're bringing in, taking all the equipment from the back room of dispatch for Motorola and bringing that across, and of course the conversion. So the Ethernet network conversion, currently our network is with Motorola is we have our microwave and then we have T1 circuits. And I've mentioned before in the past, as far as our T1 circuits are continuously failing. AT&T is not in any big hurry to replace those. Their path forward is fiber, and so we need to move forward and convert this over to fiber. The duration for this location for Motorola is expecting 5 days. The relocation will result in what's called a system-wide trunking scenario. So basically what will happen off of there is that currently every dispatch console position has within their capability to be able to listen to based on where they're assigned. So if it's a police department dispatch position, they can listen to and respond to all of the public safety police talk groups that they're able to. Same thing with the fire department. When they go into a system-wide trunking, what we have is just the capacity. That's what it's in our back office for backup. So basically what will happen is they will be able to listen to one channel per each site. So it will be the VPD primary, and then, of course, the fire department primary. So they will be going to just one channel each. This will also, in fact, affect the sheriff's department. They will also go into site-wide trunking, and we expect that to approximately last, like I said, system-wide trunking for 2 days. Then at that time, we'll also be doing the conversion of the existing T1 network to Ethernet. During this relocation, obviously, the network has to be installed prior to that too. So that's more we have to bring up in line. For the microwave replacement, we'll install a new microwave at the public safety headquarters. We'll install a new one at the prime site, which is Vogt Road. And then the primary communication will then switch to microwave once we verify that that links up and working. The Ethernet network will then go back into secondary and fail over. Just to give you an idea on this one, we're showing that on the main site at the public safety headquarters, the microwave will be located at 85 feet above ground level. And at the prime site, the south tower, it will be at 175 feet above ground level. So the cost of that. So for the console relocation, we have equipment that needs to be purchased for roughly $77,000. Professional services, $303,000, so a total of $379,000, $380,000 for the console relocation. The core relocation, $30,000 on the equipment, $266,000 for professional services, a total of $295,805 for the core relocation. And then for the microwave, of course, the new equipment for $63,000, professional services for $150,000, and that's a total of $212,000 for a grand total $888,310. And that's my presentation. Any questions?
In terms of moving, do we expect some enhancement in performance coming out of all this and the new equipment? And
I mean, I'm going to see, we're going to see with the new microwaves, we're going to get increased throughput. These are newer microwaves, so we've got some higher bandwidth. Obviously going with the T1, the fiber circuits versus T1 circuits, we're not going to have the failover that we're currently experiencing right now. As far as any new feature set, I mean, that's from the Motorola side, I don't anticipate anything. We are having a meeting tomorrow with Golden Crescent Regional Planning Commission to talk about the PSAP move, and that may be an opportunity there. That would be nice to see if they do plan on maybe offering some additional feature sets within there. But really all I'm getting from that I'm going to see is just increased reliability of our equipment.
Okay, and that's important. Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Mr. Foote, for us non-computer savvy people, as you went through your talk, there will be no gap in service, correct?
There will be no gap in
Thank you.
service. Basically, what will happen is dispatch operators will have to work a little different than what they're used to, but there will be no gap in service.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Foote. Appreciate it. Then we'll take item E3 first. And do I have a motion on item E3?
I move we adopt E3.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? E3 passes. Ms. Hilberg, will you call item E4, please?
Item E4 is a resolution approving an agreement with Motorola Solutions Incorporated for the relocation of the P25 Public Safety Radio Network as part of the Public Safety Headquarters project for an amount not to exceed $888,310.
Thank you. And having received our presentation on that, I'll entertain any motions on E4.
Motion to approve E4.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of E4, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? E4 passes. Moving then to item E5.
Item E5 is a resolution approving a variance to Section 21-180A, location of driveways, which allows for the property located at 307 West Water Street to be subdivided into 2 commercial lots with a reduced minimum distance from the nearest curb return radius of a driveway to the nearest adjacent local street right-of-way intersection.
Good evening. So items E5 and E6 are dealing with the same property at 307 West Water Street. As you know, our policy generally is if staff recommends approval of a variance and the Planning Commission recommends approval, then those items are generally on consent agenda. So both of us did recommend approval for these items, but it is a variance that is kind of out of the norm of what we normally do, or at least the E6 section or the E6 variance, and so we have a short presentation. So just as a reminder, the variance process for our Unified Development Ordinance is in the ordinance, of course, as our relief procedures. And generally, when the Planning Commission finds that there's a hardship that will result in the strict adherence of any section in that Chapter 21, then they may recommend approval to City Council to approve a variance. Staff does give a recommendation to the Planning Commission, and usually if staff's recommending approval, then the Planning Commission will adopt staff's staff report as their findings for that condition of approval. Conditions can be placed on variances, and so we do recommend that in certain circumstances. And then, of course, we have the procedure section, which requires that there be an application made. We do provide public hearing and notices for certain types of variances as they're outlined in this chapter or this division, but that notice is for the Planning Commission hearing, not for City Council. So generally, nearby property owners are not made aware of City Council, other than the fact that at the Planning Commission it's stated it's a recommendation to City Council. But the public hearing and notice is generally 200 feet within the property. We send a letter describing the notice and inviting nearby property owners to attend the Planning Commission meeting. And then, of course, the Planning Commission then takes action on the request. And if they are recommending approval, then it automatically gets forwarded to City Council. And if staff also recommend approval, that's where we see it on the consent agenda. And then if Planning Commission does not recommend approval, it essentially dies there unless they submit a letter to staff requesting that it be forwarded or appealed to City Council. So this is a variance. Then the variances also should be considered under these 5 criteria, which I won't read all through. The most difficult one is usually there's a special or unique circumstance or conditions affecting the land involved that such the strict application of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of the reasonable use of property. But we've been doing this a really long time, and if it makes sense, we can usually find a good reason to make that fit and make it make sense. There's a lot of counseling that goes on with applicants before they make applications, and that's why you don't really see too many of where staff are recommending denial of variances, because we generally try to get to yes if we can, and usually if in a lot of cases when a variance may be necessary, we're able to coach the applicants through and say, if you just push it back 2 feet, then that eliminates the need for a setback variance, and really coach folks to the simplest and quickest path to getting their approvals. So that's why there's generally, you're only seeing the ones that we recommend approval on, because we've kind of already worked out the other types of variances. So this variance before you, there's 2 variances for you tonight for one property at 307 Westwater. This was been a long time, the Anchor Lumberyard. Dollar General is purchasing the property and was planning to completely raise the property and rebuild a Dollar General market on the site. There is a historic structure located on this property that is deemed historically significant in the City of Victoria's Historic Resource Survey. It was built in 1911. It's kind of got a Beaux Arts influence as far as the architectural design. And so there was community members that were quite upset at the potential of losing this historic building in our community. Approached Dollar General and requested to save the building. Dollar General was pretty gracious and agreed to grant the property or the building to Victoria Preservation, Inc., who's agreed to take on the property. And that has resulted in a lot size variance. So this is the proposed plat. Lot 1R is, of course, the entire block, and it conforms to all of the requirements. Lot 2R is the tiny frontage, the tiny lot at the front, and that encompasses the actual building. So the Anchor Lumber office building is being carved out to be granted to VPI, and that it basically equates to a almost 1,600 square foot lot that's 87 foot long and 18 feet in depth. Commercial lots are generally required to be 10,000. It is important to note that while this lot is in the original town site, it is actually not in the historic district that we have labeled as the original town site historic district. That actually stops at Water Street, because if you remember, our historic districts don't allow manufactured homes. And when the council first adopted the historic district, there was a large prevalence of manufactured homes south of Water Street. And so instead of the original town site historic district going all the way to River Street, it stops at Water Street. So the rationale is that while it is outside of the historic district, it is completely in character with the historic downtown as being a very historic property itself. This is the property that is proposed to, or the building that they're proposing to save. And so for that, staff does recommend approval of the lot size variance. The other variance is to the driveway separation. Water Street is a collector street. It's not a local, and because of the location of the building, scooting the driveway is close to the middle and getting that 75 feet, which it really could happen if you scooted it all the way next to the building, is really not the safest option in this situation. South Glass Street is a minimally improved local street that is adjacent to this property and does not have a lot of traffic. Whereas Southwest Moody Street, of course, is TxDOT US Highway 59 is a very trafficked roadway, and then therefore the intersection of Water and Moody is pretty trafficked. And so by moving the driveway farther east, it actually allows some site visibility to see around the building that's going to remain. And we're not too concerned about conflicts with traffic on South Glass Street because of the extremely low traffic volumes on South Glass Street. So for those reasons, staff does recommend approving the driveway variance. There is a 75-foot required separation from that intersection, and they're actually only achieving a 30-foot, which again, you can see there is room to push it over, but then you will end up with site visibility issues because of the presence of the building that we're trying to save. So for all of those reasons, staff does recommend approval of both these variances, and I'd be happy to go into any further detail or discuss kind of the purpose of variances or the variance criteria or any questions you may have.
Hey, Julie, how close is that to the church that's nearby?
Our Lady of Sorrows is across the street.
Most Dollar Generals serve beer or sell beer, correct? Is that going to be an issue? 300 feet?
They have not yet applied to
Just,
for their liquor license, so we will have to do the measurements at that time. I don't know if it's door to door or property line to property line. And this is a Dollar General market, so I'm not sure what their
just
market
throwing that
is.
question out there
So
as a potential issue coming forward.
we can definitely look at the measurements.
The Dollar
And I'll
General,
add,
the Dollar General permit, it won't be to consume alcohol on the property.
No,
No, but even the sale.
See, it'll be sales, so it shouldn't be an issue.
Of course, the current location is also across the street from the
However,
church.
what came first?
Yeah, that's,
Sorrows, I believe, would have
Did
come
it?
well before,
yeah.
Church then? Okay.
or the original Sorrows.
and I was just going to add that the planning commission also supported
Yes.
both variances.
Any further questions for Ms. Fulgham? No, thank you for your work on this. I know there was a lot of communications and discussions that you and your department helped facilitate, and I think the outcome is something that I think is good for not only development on the south side, but also preserving historical structures. And so I think this is a win all the way around as far as I can see it, so.
I do have a question. Is the building going to be open, or there's no parking or anything?
So the code does allow the Director of Development Services to waive parking requirements for historically significant structures. We did talk to Dollar General about potentially a parking agreement, and they declined because they want to ultimately have control. But if you notice, just north, like on the other side of Water Street, there are no parking requirements because it is in the downtown historic district. And so there's really a lot of street parking in the area, and we don't really foresee this 1,500 square foot or 1,600 square foot property creating a public nuisance with parking.
Then I'd like to echo the compliments on working on a difficult project. And Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt this item.
I'll second.
All right, I've got a motion, a second, to adopt item E5. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? E5 passes. Ms. Hilbert, item E6.
Item E6 is a resolution approving a variance to Section 21-138 Land Use Table of the City Code, which allows for a property located at 307 West Water Street to be subdivided into a commercial retail lot and a commercial office lot, with the commercial office lot being below the minimum lot size and having reduced setback requirements.
Thank you, Ms. Hilbert. I'll entertain any motions on E6.
I move we adopt.
Second.
Got a motion as second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? E6 passes. Moving then to Section F, City Manager Reports. Mr. Garza, I see nothing listed there. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. I understand we have a short executive session, however.
Yes, sir.
So you give and you take away. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's right.
Very good.
So it may not be short then.
But fair enough. It is 6:22. We will move into executive session. We will take a 10-minute break, so we'll reconvene at 6:32.
Okay. City Council recess for executive session on the third day of September at 6:22 PM. Subject matter is as follows: Texas Government Code 551.087, 551.072, and 551.071.